Everyone, today I have Terry, and this is something an interview I'm very excited about because when I reached out to Terry to do this interview, I've never gotten a much more enthusiastic answer than I got from you. And when you did the write up to be like getting ready for this interview, his write up was so long, guys, and it was so detailed. And I think it's clear to me why not only Terry has gotten the results because he was able to go, his mastery of these things are so deep and he can go so deep. And I think you'll see in this interview how deep he can go, but also why, if you look at a lot of people in the program, they look up to Terry. And so you'll see why here, I think, as well. But Terry, to start us off, can we get a picture of how things were like in the beginning, maybe when you joined the program or even the times before you joined the program? What were things like with you? What were things like with the relationship at that point?
Oh, for sure. Oh man. Oh my gosh. I'm sure a lot of people who are watching this video can relate to this, but before getting into the program, it was horrible. And the saddest thing is that I didn't know how bad I was making it, and I was making it even worse than what it really was. But yeah, I mean, victim mindset, oh my gosh, like just blaming all the toxic behaviors you can think of. I was pretty much doing it. And the saddest part is that I was telling myself I was doing the right thing and not knowing how much I'm just shooting myself in the foot. And I'll be honest with you, Jeffrey, this is something I didn't tell you or anybody in the group is that my victim mindset was so bad before joining the group was I remember looking up YouTube videos. I'm sure a lot of people are doing this too. And I saw your video, man. And your video was the one video that actually called us out, like called me out on my own bullshit. And I saw your video for like the first minute, and I'm like, oh, "Fuck this guy, man!" This is not what I want to hear. So I remember like going through all these other videos, and all these other guys are talking about how like your partner's a narcissist, or like you deserve better, whatever. They're just fluffing your ego, and just pretty much feeling sorry for myself is what I was doing. The saddest thing is that I didn't realize like how much damage I was doing at that point. I mean, it was to the point where I remember my partner would tell me just being in her presence would cause her to have like a physical reaction. Like she would actually, I remember just walking up to our bathroom sink just to get ready to brush her teeth. And she was there. And immediately when she saw me, she just like jerked back. And I was like, whoa, like it was that bad. I was like, man, I need to do something about this. And it was kind of weird because about a month after initially watching your video, I was just driving home one day and I was like, crap, what if I got it wrong? Like, what if there's something else that I'm missing? Because the path that I'm going is always leading to this really crappy result. So
Yeah.
maybe I got to think differently. So then I started to go down the rabbit hole of checking out this dude's video. Let's see what he has to say, right? And then as I'm watching it, I was like, oh my god, it's paralleling to what I was thinking that I was missing. So then I found like so many gems, and I just couldn't believe the amount of content that you're putting out and how much it resonated to like things that I never even thought about before. So
Yeah.
that's when I started
I
to like,
wanna I wanna go
uh,
more specific here to giving specific examples of the toxic things that you're doing.
oh
Now that
gee,
you look back, right?
yeah,
Hindsight vision 2020.
yeah, yeah.
Do you recall some moments that makes you go, kind of cringe a bit?
Oh yeah, and it's fun. The funny thing is that we've gotten to the point where we actually talk about it and laugh about it because it's just so ridiculous of the things I would do. Man, this is how bad it was. I was playing the high value man card as if like I was offering so much to this relationship, and like it's her loss for leaving me or whatever. And I remember I would get to the point where um like in our house how in our household I am the cook and the one who does all the groceries.
Mm.
I remember at one point where she told me, hey, I'm done, that's it. So I remember I was like, okay, well, that's fine, go ahead, you leave, then you're pretty much going to do all the cooking, then I'm just going to cook for me and the girls, and then like you do your own thing, and I thought I was being powerful by doing that. I was just like, dude, such an idiot. I mean, it was
Yeah.
just things like that, and she would tell me that too, and it would be like she spotted too. The craziest thing is that I thought I was being on my high horse and trying to be like, well, if you want to be independent, then go ahead, do it. But she saw it all along, man, and I would just pat myself on the back thinking I'm doing the right thing, but it was so stupid. It was so
Yeah.
dumb. And then I went to like the other side of like that covert neediness where like now I'm trying to like, I played all freaking polarization of this thing, man. Like then I'm trying to like, write her songs to win her back, or like we can do the stupidest thing, like buying gifts or whatever, the typical stuff you see on like Hallmark Channel. And it was just so bad, man. It was horrible.
Yeah. And I
Yeah.
think it's the same trap that I think a lot of people first joining the program fall into, which is, you listen to a lot of videos and they tell you how you're already great. How
Mhm.
if, we hear things like, if they don't appreciate you, if they don't see your value, then screw them, right? Like
Yeah.
quotes like, if you can't take me at my worst, then you can't get me at my best, kind of thing.
Exactly. And I kept on
Uh,
playing through my mind, like, hey, we made a vow to be, for better or for worse, and all this bullshit, and like talking myself up. And Jeffrey, this is the saddest thing, man, is that I went through three different therapists, and two of them were marriage counselors. And the saddest thing is these guys got all these credentials and everything, but dude, they were just fluffing my victim mindset, really.
mm,
I mean, I remember one of them was telling me like, I deal with a lot of clients, Terry, and you have all the qualities that a lot of my clients would want in a husband. So I don't know why your wife doesn't see this or whatever. So, I mean, it was just telling me everything that I wanted to hear, but not what I really needed to hear.
yeah. I want to dive deeper into that of like understanding what great actually means. And I think, for a lot of, compared to a lot of people, I think back then you were good enough, but you weren't great to the point where you can create this high level value to the extent that you should be, to the extent that you could be. So in a
Yeah.
therapist's eyes, she's probably saying like, oh yeah, you're better than the average. But in your partner's eyes, she's thinking like, well, yeah, you're better than the average, but better than the average still makes me very miserable. Right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
let's focus on that in a bit. But it's also again like the cycle of you go on your high horse, and then when your partner's unhappy and she tells you she's unhappy, somehow it's her fault that she's unhappy, right? Not your fault. And that mindset is actually the same mindset that got her to be unhappy in the first place, because that destroys a lot of
Exactly.
safety. And imagine if you're your partner, how hopeless they must have felt, because this high horse mentality makes me feel very unhappy. I express to you how unhappy I feel, and you double down on your high horse card, and you make me feel very unhappy for even expressing that I'm unhappy. And
Yeah.
it's just a never-ending cycle. It's just I can't imagine being in that position,
Yeah. It's really insidious. I mean, like it almost perpetuates itself because you get these, I guess, these dopamine hits of like, oh man, you're making yourself feel better, and the whole world's telling you this too. That this is what's really crazy, is that but I know that it's underneath good intentions. They just want you to make you feel better. So
Mm.
they'll start, fluffing your ego, telling you about how it's, yeah, it's her fault for leaving you or whatever. Um, but yeah, after uh, pretty much seeing what I needed to see, I started to like feel so horrible. I mean, like to understand how much she's been suffering this whole time
Yeah.
was just such an eye-opening experience,
Yeah.
and it needed to happen. That's the craziest thing. Oh man,
Yeah.
it's just amazing. Yeah. I wish that the people who are watching this can just really get a glimpse of what it is that's in this program that you created. And I think that's one of the most amazing things about you, man. And I'm not just saying this just to kiss your ass or anything like that, but it's like you're able to take really hard concepts and be able to portray them in such an easy to digest way that anybody like an idiot like myself can understand. And your YouTube videos are great. And I remember thinking too, because I was watching a lot of the client interviews, and I guess they had the same thing. It's like, oh, maybe I can do this by just watching your videos, right? But man, once you get into the program, it is like hundreds of levels deeper. And the way that you put out the program, how it's laid out, it actually walks you through down to where you need to be to conceptualize everything in such a good like manner.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's crazy, man. Yeah.
Thanks, man. That's yeah, that's awesome to hear. Like this has been my obsession. Like, for the program, I have newer versions every single year, and it just
Mhm.
gets richer and better and more effective every time. And it's kind of what I think, breathe, sleep. I sleep this thing, you know. Uh, but so in the beginning, your partner was at a point where she was cringing every time you were around. She was like had an emotional reaction, a physical reaction even. And I think you at one point kind of alluded to the fact that she was done. Like she told you, like, I'm done. I'm not even gonna try anymore. We're headed for divorce. That's it.
Yeah.
So now it's now you've done the
Mhm.
program. How are things like now?
Oh my God, man. It's amazing. Um,
You mentioned you were laughing now. You actually laugh together about how toxic and how bad
yeah.
it used to be and how low
Yeah.
level it used to be.
Yeah. I mean, Jeffrey, I mean, the weirdest thing is that after going through all this and learning from what I've been able to learn from the program and applying it to, pretty much my everyday life, dude, we've been connecting in ways we've never ever been connected before, even during the peak of our marriage. It was
Mm.
crazy. Um, in fact, just the other day we had a discussion, and this is the most awesomest thing about like going through the program and what you learn, man, is that these opportunities for connection and for growth and for reconnection exists everywhere within our lives, everywhere within our relationship. And your program actually taught me to be able to like spot these out and to be like, oh man, so sensitive to it. So
Mm.
like something so simple as just like a text reminder of a dental appointment for our girls led to like this hour-long conversation. And through that, we just like connected like no way we've ever done before, man. And I can't tell you, I wish I could describe in words like how awesome that feeling is. Um, but yeah, it's just like our eyes locked and I could see her micros and the wall just came down. And we had this awesome moment where she felt me and I felt her.
Mm.
And it's never been like that ever before. So now we're talking about like just fun things, it doesn't have to be all serious, but we could go there if we wanted to also. So it's like in your video you talk about dancing through these conversations,
Yeah.
and that's what we've been doing lately. Whether it's like about something that's really deep and painful or something that's so lighthearted, either way, it's like moments of connection, and it's like such a great experience, man.
No, I kind of
Yeah.
teared up a bit as you said that because I remember my first deep moment of connection like that with Samantha.
Mhm.
Because I think as men, right, we talk to other men and we kind of discuss things. We discuss lives, but it's in a very logical way. It's a very like I would say logistical way. You just kind of talk about the events that happened, but nowhere to the level of like you're talking about the deeper sensations, feelings, experiences, which while a lot of men say will say like I don't need to talk about that stuff,
Mhm.
but a lot of men are kind of soft inside, meaning when you actually show them that experience of what it feels like to deeply connect with someone on that deep level, that unexplainable level, I
Mhm.
think a lot of men would actually tear up a bit. And a lot of women would be kind of blown away by that because it's a very human sensation, it's a very human desire. We go out into the world and we want to be understood. We want to make this deep connections with people, which is why we want to find people who are similar to us, who have similar interests, because the hope is that I want to be with someone, to be around someone that gets me, that just clicks with me, that I feel
Mhm.
like we're like one level playing field, we're living the same reality kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you can deny this all you want, that you don't want that. But once you get it, that will move you. And I think that's what you felt. It's like that's a sensation that very few men get to achieve, get to feel. Ooh, it's hard to
Oh,
process how good it is.
brother, you nailed it, man. I mean, there were times where like we would be talking. I just told her about this like the other day too. It's just that, man, there were times where we would connect so deeply where I could feel the tears coming out. And applying, controlled compassion, I have to, do the pretty much showing the right, emotion at the right time. But it's kind of like, man, but I could feel her, you know what I mean? And I remember telling her too, like for the very first time, I mean, we've been together for like, I'd say like 24 years now.
Mm,
And I felt as if like this is the first time I actually see her. And not only that, but the first time I'm actually feeling her. And it was like, it's a sensation that I cannot describe.
mm,
Even get this during like our therapy sessions when we had our marriage counseling sessions because they don't know. they just don't know what it is that we're doing here in this program. I swear to God, dude, it's revolutionary, man, because
But
you're going against the grain on this.
let's dive into that, right? Of like, so now you've been in the program and you know what this program can do. You know, like the depth it can go to. But when you first joined the program, there was no way you knew what you were in for, right? Um,
Mhm.
it's almost like, how I describe it is some people, they come to this program thinking that they want to just save their marriage. And I think their idea of what it means to save their marriage is a very vague idea
Mhm.
of that. Just like, well, things are not this bad, I guess. Well, she doesn't want to divorce me, I guess. Or people know about this importance of bettering yourself. And people have an idea of what that means, like going to the gym, maybe making more money, maybe communicating in a slightly better way
Mhm.
to create this kind of relationship, whatever it is. What was your expectation for what you wanted to get out of this program when you first joined?
Oh, that's a very interesting question. Yeah, I mean, I have to admit, I'm one of those too. Like the only reason why I even found your videos and even gone down this pathway is to try to reconcile, to try to save this marriage, because it was something that was worth saving. But then I quickly learned that it's really, you really got to save yourself. I mean, this program goes beyond your relationship. It actually goes so deep where it goes to the relationship with yourself. And once you're able to achieve that, this is why, like, I think YouTube videos that you put out is great, but then the program actually leads you to where you need to be exactly at the moment where you need to be at. And having that having that knowledge really expanded like my understanding of what we're doing here. And now, like, I don't know if you saw my recent post, but it's like, dude, it's only my partner that's feeling this. Is my kids now too, my daughters, my
Mm,
parents, my sister. I mean, like my family, the people who I'm close to. It's basically affecting all of them in such great ways, And it's something that I would never have imagined when I first joined the program.
yeah.
And I realized that these are all just byproducts of what it is that we're building here and what we're learning and going through the program itself. Man, I just wish I can there's some way. I wish there was a way to convey this so that it's easy to understand,
Yeah,
but I
that's
know it's very
that's
difficult
that's an
to
interesting point too, because you also mentioned when you first joined, you had a hard time actually trusting me, the program, surrendering to what we teach fully, right?
Mhm.
Tell me what happened at that point, like when you first joined, or maybe even the moments before you joined. And I think a lot of people are in this position where I'm the one here claiming to you all these high level promises, these
Mhm.
amazing promises, this amazing like future. I tell you this,
Mhm.
and I tell you just follow the process. And the only way you can fail is if you don't follow it. If you follow it, you will get outcomes that are go well, well, well beyond what you can even imagine right now.
Yeah.
But yet you still didn't trust me. What was going through your mind at that point?
Yeah, because like we all know about the POC, right? I mean, you made some videos about this, and having that particular feedback just goes against everything that we've been working for. And I think like most people who join your program, like we want like quick results. We want to like know the right things to say or the right things to do to get the results that we want, right? Just and this is a very slow process, like losing weight. So when we're so dire in those kind of situations and we feel like everybody's like situation is so unique, we feel like, oh
Mm.
man, this can't happen, but it's not happening. So I could see how like it's easy to fall underneath like that not trusting you type of thing, even though you've been telling us the whole time, just surrender to this program, just do it. And it's just there's like a little voice in the back of your mind going like, yeah, yeah, I know he's telling me to surrender and eventually you'll get there, but it's kind of like, man, is he for real? It's really, I don't know. There's a lot of like, there's still like some doubt, right?
Yeah.
And I think that's the hardest thing, man, is just like to get over that initial doubt. But then what I realize is that if you just do the work, if you just follow what you're teaching us in this program, is like, man, you get to where you need to be.
Yeah.
And yeah.
I kind of see the journey kind of like this, right? So if you buy other programs who teach you the tactics, they don't teach you like the internal stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like you get like this short-term boost, but then that's it. You kind of peak after that. Like you can't do better. You can't improvise. You can't build upon the tactics that you learned. You got the tactics and that's it. So you grow really fast and you peak.
Mm-hmm.
Now, often though, that peak for a lot of people is not even reconciliation. Or
Mm-hmm.
if it's reconciliation, is what we call like fake reconciliation,
Mm-hmm.
where your partner might come back to you because maybe she's afraid to explore the great unknown of what life is like without you. But even if she comes back to you, she's always gonna be wondering, what if I explored? What if I went out? She's not gonna be 100% fully there. And we see this sometimes with people coming in the program who have gone through this fake reconciliation and they realize tactics cannot work anymore. Well, mine is more like an S curve where I tell you, like, okay, sure, eventually we will learn the tactics. We'll learn what to say, what to do. But before that, we need to build our bulletproof vest. Before that, we need to build our untetheredness. Before that, we need to understand how you can switch your paradigm so that you can learn better, you can think better, you can think in a different way. To do that, we need to get rid of your victim mindset first. So there's so many prerequisites, right, before you actually get there. But what happens is with those foundations, sure, it takes a long time for you to learn those foundations. It might feel like a flat line at first, but you are poisoning yourself basically to get that exponential growth going forward. And the exponential growth never ends, where the more you know, the more you learn, the more you learn, the more you know, the more you know, the more you learn. And you can just keep improvising. And what I'm thinking about is not what is happening in the short term to my clients. I'm thinking about what is happening to them in the long term. And I think a lot of people cannot get past the short term. So in a way that they're taking debts, right? They're stealing from the long term to fund their short-term happiness. But they're not paying off the debt, which is, hey, make things hard for you in the beginning so that you can have a lifetime of bliss kind of thing. It's a very different model. But if you trust it, you can go beyond. So I guess my next question too for you is, at what point did you trust it? What were the things you were looking at, that you're observing within yourself, within the program, that you made you go, you know what? This is what I got to do.
Yeah, it came quickly. It came quickly because the doubt actually existed uh, in the beginning before I even really got into the program. But I remember watching like the first few modules within the first phase, and I was like, "Oh shit, this is something. This is something that is completely different." And I could already feel the changes that's going to happen. I already know that something great is going to be down along the road. I just have to take my time and to get there. And then hearing not only your story, but then all the other people within the group that had success, they all can't just be bullshitting, So it's like they're doing something right here, and something's going on. So I'm like, okay, let me just trust this guy. I'm going to go for it. Let's do this. I got nothing to lose, right? So yeah, once I just surrendered to your program and what you've been saying in it, it's just like everything just started to click. Everything started to go, because I feel like when you're holding on to your old knowledge, you're basically holding yourself back, because it's like not emptying out your cup and not coming out with a fresh, clean canvas. It's like you're doing yourself a disservice, I guess, by not being really antithetic, really.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, it's crazy because like one of the recurring things that I've noticed on your videos, actually, in your interview videos, is actually there's people that will go up and talk about uh, the affordability of it, and I noticed that it's a reoccurring thing. And then I'm thinking, like, reading about it, I was like, man, if you're questioning this, you're actually using the old knowledge to apply to like why is this not conforming to the way you would think? So I got a buddy who's an optometrist, awesome dude. And I remember coming up to him. I was like, "Hey man, I saw this ad for like LASIK surgery for like $500 an eye." And he goes, "Terry, you got to question like, why is it $500? It costs usually like a couple of thousand per eye. Why is it $500? Something's not right here." You know what I mean? So then I was like, "Oh yeah." I mean, applying that to here is kind of like the same thing. It's like, yeah, it'd be great, but then like with with the high price comes high quality too. It's like it takes and seeing how hard you work, man, and like how hard your team works. I could see the resources and the things that you guys are doing, and it takes a lot of effort, energy, and a lot of time, and all of that. It requires resources to do these things, and you're constantly trying to strive to get the program to be a better place than it was before. And I'll be honest with you, man. Like I think I joined in V3, and then like seeing it go even farther, it's like, man, this is crazy. I'm like, how can you improve on this even more? But like, you guys did it. You did it. You nailed it. So I was like, shit, this is awesome. So going. So the best part is that even though I'm at like towards the end of a little bit more towards the end of the program, it's like when you put out stuff that's new from the beginning of the program, I go back and I'm always learning something new. It's like watching your favorite movie, right? Like I love Goodfellas, and like every time you watch that movie, you learn something new. So then like that's why I go through your program like and watch your videos like multiple times, man, before moving on, because I get these new tidbits that you don't really see. And like we're talking about like hundreds of hours of material on the thing, and it's like, man, I can't get enough because you're always learning something new.
Yeah, that's what we strive to do. But you brought up something very interesting, which is I want to tie back to something you said earlier, which is how, all the things you're getting right now, like the deepest connections that you're getting right now, and you wish people can understand what that feels like. And it's so hard to convey that. And I think that's the reason why sometimes people get caught up in this affordability aspect of it. Because like if you look at it, it's like now the program is like 4,000. We're planning on increasing it even more as time goes on, because like we're still having a hard time keeping up with demand. But there are some people who will say, oh, it's not worth the price. I don't know. Because I think this is not like a business program where I can show you, okay, if you follow this, you will get 10 million bucks a year. You will get there. You can't quantify this. I can't even show it or describe it to you, like you said. I can't even describe just how good this connection feels, right? I can't even describe how good these outcome wins feel to me, where I am to me. Because if you were, let's say, you were standing right in front of your old self, day one in the program, and now you're like, I think almost a year in, maybe.
Yeah, about almost a year.
And you were standing in front of your old self, and you told your old self, hey, dude, if you do this, this is what you get. And you try to describe it with words to your old self. Even your old self is not going to believe you. Exactly. Because your old self is still operating under that limit, that ceiling of how good things could be. Not understanding that like how good things could be is like you haven't even gone out of the building yet. Right? There's a whole universe. You haven't even gone out of your skyscraper yet, Yeah. I think that's the hard part. It's like we try to convey that, but we can't really convey that because it's something that's so immeasurable, so indescribable, and so outside beyond people's imagination of how good life and relationships could actually be.
Yeah, and that's what was really crazy is that before joining the program, I thought I knew what a great relationship was. I guarantee a lot of people watching this video is probably going to feel the same way too. It's like we have this notion, whether it's by social media or it's in the movies or God knows what, that this is what a healthy marriage and relationship was like. And I remember like living by these paradigms too. Man, paradigms there you go. It's like, yeah, it's so crazy, and then to find out that, dude, you don't even know the potential of where it could go, and that's just like mild, you know what I mean? It's like so many levels that you can go above that. And then once it's like, oh, and actually experiencing that is just like, man, dude, it's amazing. It's like, dude, screw heroin, you want this, man. This is what's gonna get you going.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's funny.
I guess the takeaway for people too is like, it's like when I tell you like, dude, I can go push you beyond your wildest imagination, it's not a joke. It's not a sales tactic. It's not a marketing tactic. I actually want to help you get there. And I actually can get there. The question is really, would you trust me enough to actually lead you there? Right. And the cost of it is like 4,000, sure. But sometimes I say to people like 4,000 is the price of a beat up, shitty car. Like think about it. Like if you have 4,000 right now, you go to like a used car dealership, you get nothing. Like you get zero things from there. And you get like this beater up car. Are you saying like this lifetime of happiness is not worth that beat up old car to you? If it's not, then either we are having a grave misunderstanding of how high your potential can be, or this part of your life must not be a priority for you. Either way, it's like something is wrong there.
Yeah, man. And it's like, dude, it's a drop in the bucket. I mean, we were paying like a couple $100 per session, I remember, for our therapy sessions. And you extrapolate that to the number of years that we've been through that and going through that, it's like
you're paying $100
like twice, 3 times already.
It's like you're going $100 a session, but you're also going backwards. You're not even going in the right direction. You're paying to go backwards.
So yeah, that's crazy. You know what's really crazy, Jeffrey, is that I remember trusting these therapists too, and apologize to you, is that I trust them because initially, before I even found you, was that they had credentials. They had like PhDs. They had all these like stuff that's hanging on their wall, and I was like, oh. Yeah, they know what they're doing. They know what they're talking about. So then, like, here I am listening to them, and all they're doing is just feeding me victim mindset shit, and they're just keeping me there. And I remember our last therapist, the one where my partner goes, I'm done. That's it, right? She was like, oh, I guess that's it. There's nothing we can do about it. And I remember like having a session with her afterwards, like just freaking bawling out, crying and stuff like that. And she was just like, Tara, you did all you could do. There's nothing else we can do. And just look at, how wonderful you are. You find someone, and you need to find someone that appreciates you. All this bullshit, right? That our buddies would tell us, our families would tell us. But then like, we don't see what we don't see because it's in our blind spot. So yeah. we're so like ignorant of it because we're not aware of it.
But I want to address that a little quick because I do sometimes still get that once or twice a month where someone comes to me and says like, what's your credentials? Right. I think what they're looking for is what's your paperwork? What's your degree? I want to see some paper, some diploma or something. And I told them this, like, well, that depends on what your definition of credentials is. If credentials to you is a piece of paper telling you that I understand the theory of things, then I don't have that. Go to someone else. But if your idea of credentials is a higher standard than that, your idea of credentials is results, track record, success rate, then I'm your guy. I'm the highest in the industry. So people like often ask this question, like, what's your credentials? As if their idea of what credentials mean is like the highest there is. But to me, if your idea of credentials is a piece of paper, you have very low standards, my friend, of what constitutes credentials. You should be looking at results. But if you look at therapists, you ask them, what's your success rate? They will not answer that question. Because
how can you measure that?
How can you measure that? But also, it brings it to my next point, which is like, it's easy to find people who will tell you what you want to hear, but hard to find people who will tell you what you need to hear. Because often what you want to hear, what you need to hear is very different things. When you need to hear, sometimes offends people. And we get on a call sometimes with people who they show up to the call, right, in the application call, and they tell us about how awesome they are, how all the good things they're doing. And then we tell them like, hey, do you want me to just like pat you on the back right now? Or do you want me to actually help your life be better? Which one do you want? Okay, you want some help to be better? Well, let me tell you the harsh reality. And we tell them the harsh realities. We tell them all their victim mindsets, all their missed opportunities and missteps. And some people are okay with that. Most people are okay. Some people get offended. And I'm like, well, if you get offended, then it should be no mystery to you why you haven't learned the things you needed to learn. Because every time someone tells you what you need to hear, this is how you respond. This is how you react. You villainize people who do that. And you surround yourself with people who tell you what you want to hear. No wonder, you know.
And guess what? Your partner's been telling you what you needed to hear all this time.
And
all
you
you're doing
never
is
listened. And you never listened.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Same thing, man.
But it's a very systemic problem in the coaching space, in like even therapy space. And you ask the question, like, how can these therapists who are supposed to be very qualified, who are supposed to help people get better lives, how are they the ones perpetuating and creating this victim mindset? How is that possible? And it goes back to, again, like I always use this example of like the opioid crisis thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the US, hospitals are privatized. So hospitals are rated by how pain-free they make people's visits. So hospitals are incentivized to overprescribe painkillers beyond what the patient needs. But it's what they want, because it's what they want. It's what the patient wants, to be pain-free. So the result is that a lot of people end up getting addicted to opioids, and now we have the opioid crisis. And you ruin people's lives forever for that small, tiny moment of pleasure, and you ruin their whole life forever. And I feel like with therapists, and it's kind of the same, where you show up there, you're wounded, you're hurt, and the therapist, they know what you need, but they're often too scared to give you what you need. Because when they give you what you need, imagine if the hospital gives them like, no, you don't want a painkiller. You need to bear through the pain. You need to be uncomfortable right now. What do they risk? They risk people giving them bad reviews, retaliating, right? Well, you just get one-on-one. I don't care if you ruin your life. I get a good review. Great. Bingo. Same thing with a therapist. Let me just give you what you want. It's easier for me. Call your day's work. Go.
Yeah.
So be careful, guys, right? Like when you go to professionals and you have these credentials in a way, have a higher definition of what credentials mean. Credentials shouldn't be a piece of paper. Credentials should be, what's your results? And your results should not be comfort. Like if you go to a therapist and your results, the best result you can get is, I felt really nice. They listened to me and it was a nice environment. Like they understood me. That should not be your criteria of results. Your results is, do I objectively feel happier? Do I objectively in a position where I am feeling better? I am doing better. Relationships are getting better, etc. Not, is the session itself comfortable?
Yeah, it's kind of like living in comfort is basically living in the same knowledge that you have. It's going into facing your fears, going into the uncomfortable is when you start to see things and notice things that you didn't notice before, or you didn't see it before, because you were trying to pretty much just kind of like self-protect your own ego, maybe, or something, Yeah. It's amazing. Yeah.
Now, just to close off on this topic, we do sometimes like get the people who argue with us, I guess, in subtle ways, sometimes in overt ways too. Overt ways meaning sometimes people argue with us how they don't believe how high we can take them. So people they hear all our claims and they go like, I don't buy it. It's just a sales thing.
Yeah.
Or they do it covertly by explaining to us like, hey, here's my story. My story is very unique, etc. And here's why I cannot achieve this thing that you want me to achieve. Like we had a call with this guy earlier today, and he said this on the call, and we didn't onboard him, of course, but he said, I've made all the changes I need to make. I just need to make my partner see my changes. She doesn't buy it, right? And said to him, like, what if I told you your situation is actually not only possible, but it's been done thousands of times over by people who started off in worse situations than you are in and ended up in higher situations than you are in, right? What if I told you that? And he goes like, no, you don't understand. Like, I've literally tried everything. There's no higher I can go. And I said to him, like, you know how absurd this conversation is, Mr. Prospect? Like, this is like you going to Usain Bolt. Usain Bolt ran the 100-meter dash in under 10 seconds. Precisely 9.8 seconds. And 9.58, I think. 9.557, something like that, right? And imagine you go to him and you start to have a debate with him about how running under 10 seconds is physically impossible. What are you doing, dude? It's already done. There's no debate. So you try to debate me whether this is possible or not. That is no debate. And it's not just something happening once, but hundreds, thousands of times. So you debating me is very absurd right now.
Yeah, that's funny. That's like the perfect product thing, right?
Yeah.
It's kind of like, well, Jeffrey, you golf, man. So it's like you've seen this many times, right? Like a lot of guys would golf and be like, "Oh man, these clubs suck." You know, it's like, I should be playing with, and we're like, "Oh, it's too windy today. That's why my score sucks." You know, it's never about like looking. You know what? Maybe
Yeah.
there's something wrong with you. You know what I mean? Like maybe it's not the product. Maybe it's not this or that. Whatever.
Yeah.
So
So let's talk about that too, the victim mindset. And you mentioned this a lot, and this is kind of your biggest growth point is like how you were a victim before and how you're not a victim now. I guess my first question to you is, we all know being victims is a bad thing. But why were you so blind to yours?
Yeah, oh man. So this is huge because I feel like a lot of people probably feel this way too, is that it's so insidious that it disguises itself as a good thing because it makes you feel good. It protects you. It protects you from seeing, pretty much the dark side of you, pretty much the things that you've done that are toxic. So it's almost like a self-preservation kind of like mechanism that we're doing for ourselves. And that victim mindset was what I had carried with me for like many years. And it didn't allow me to fully understand my partner as well. And I didn't know about this until I actually got into the program. And you had a couple modules on this, and it was great because this is what we all need to hear, really. But yeah, man, it exists within our blind spots, right? And we don't see it because we think that we're doing a good thing, not knowing that it's such a horrible thing. And there's so many repercussions and consequences that comes with it.
I think that's a big one because just to give people an example of something that Terry's talking about here, one of the big tenets, the principle behind playing victim is that you're blaming external circumstances, other people, for what is happening to you. So, for example, like if you're in a bad relationship right now, playing victim is sometimes you blaming your partner. So you say like, "Oh, we're getting divorced because my partner is kind of an asshole." Or my partner is kind of like not wanting to commit, whatever it is. She's not ready to commit. She's not ready for a relationship. She's having a midlife crisis, whatever it is. Right. So you're sending it outside of yourself. It's not you saying, how did I create a bad environment to cause her to act that way? It's more of like, oh, she acts that way, which is why we're having the situation right now.
Yeah.
But think about it this way. If you blame your partner, right? And you say, we're getting divorced because of her, because of what she did. It makes you feel powerful, like Terry was saying. It makes you feel strong because it makes you feel like I'm not at fault. I'm not the one with flaws. I'm not the one with the shortcomings. I'm on my fucking high horse. I'm better than her, right? So the word victim, so like I finished it off, like the word victim makes it sound like it'll feel weak. So when you feel strong, when you're playing victim in that way, you often don't even think I'm playing victim. Sorry, I cut you off there.
No, you're absolutely right. It's just that, you don't see yourself, you don't see that you're playing victim. You don't see that. You're actually seeing yourself as like some sort of, like you're on your high horse pretty much. Like, look at all the things that I'm doing or whatever it is to make yourself feel better. But yeah, it's just, man, it's such a horrible way, not only to be in a relationship, but just live your life. Right.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's so sad, but the thing is that it all exists within us. It's kind of like the victim mindset is us doing it upon ourselves. It's not our partners doing it onto us or the world doing it onto us. It's our mentality that's making this happen. And it was so crucial to learn that and to realize that if you're doing this, if you're having this mindset and you're doing it onto you, you have the power to flip it. You get a power to do something about it. Because if you're giving it as if like, oh man, this external circumstances or this person is causing me to feel this way, you're giving away all your emotional and all your power to external like sources.
Yeah. So
Don't
what
have
Harry was saying is that kind of like a lot of people might be saying, okay, if I can go through life just blaming all my problems on other people, how's that bad for me? Like, how's that bad for me? Well, at first it might feel good. But then when you do that, when you blame everything on things outside of you, like Terry was saying, what you're also saying implicitly is, I'm so powerless in influencing what happens to me, what happens to my life, that other people and external circumstances have such control over what happens to me, over what I feel.
exactly.
So it might feel good, but actually you are admitting that you are extremely weak. You're extremely powerless, right?
Yeah.
And if all the problems is outside of you, then there's nothing you can do about anything anymore. You're kind of stuck,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
I think the other reason, if I look back into why I fell into the victim mindset too, is also this notion of like, it absolves you of doing any work, right? And I have a funny story here. So obviously I just built this house, right, Terry? You know that. And when I first built a house, they told us like, walk through the house and tell us everything that's broken. Tell us everything that's like missing, like blue tape everything. At first, I was like, for a day, I was like lazy to do it. I was like, whatever. I didn't really take it seriously. And it was because like secretly, once I thought about it, secretly I knew that once I know the problems exist, now I have to do something about it. Right.
Mm.
So it's almost like this, like back then, if you can just like shift all the blame you had to your to your partner, you basically can live in this la la land of I don't need to do anything. But the moment you play victim, you get out of your victim mindset and you realize your flaws, you uncover your own flaws. Once you know it, you can't unknow it, kind of thing. Once you know it, and if you don't do something to fix it, then you're kind of an asshole. You're the asshole now, right? So you have no more excuses. Like once the problem is discovered, you now have no excuse to not fix the problem if the problem is within your realm of control. Which is why I would rather the problem not be in my realm of control, kind of thing. It's a weird psychological thing, right?
It is. It is. Yeah. Yeah. It's almost like a weird sense of false power of
False
not having
completion.
that. Yeah.
False
Yeah.
completion. Like,
Exactly, man. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So it's like, yeah, if you don't know it, then there's nothing, you don't have to fix anything. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's not my problem. So I'm gonna throw it on over to her or to him, or like it's there, like it exists within them, not within me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah.
It's funny. It's funny. Like I had someone who used to tell me like, hey, Terry, a zebra can't change your stripes. But I was like, but you can't do anything about their stripes, man. How about
Well,
looking at
I want to talk about that too, right? I want to talk about that because that's a big topic. It's the two to tango topic. Before I go there, I want to close off on this like victim mindset thing. For people just to take away from this, how do you spot your victim mindset, right? And there's actually a very good thought experiment you can do on this one. Because sometimes like we fall into the victim mindset and it's so insidious, like what Terry was saying, that we don't even know we're falling into it. And here's a good way to understand it. If you look at any bad habits you can imagine in this world, smoking, eating badly, whatever, bad habits always reward you now and punish you later. You take a cigarette, it will reward you now with a nicotine hit. You might not get lung cancer till 20, 30 years later.
Yeah.
So immediate reward, delayed punishment. Now let's reverse this. Let's look at good habits. They always punish you now and reward you later. And reward you later. So if you work out, if you eat healthy, you feel the dissatisfaction of working out, the pain of working out, but you might not get fit till months or years later. Now let's look at victim mindset. Victim mindset, when you blame everything on outside of you, you absolve your responsibility. It feels good now, but they punish you later. It's the same MO as bad habits. So understand that, there's the reason why in life, bad habits seem to just pop up out of nowhere. Think about it. When have you said in your life, I don't know, I just accidentally adopted this good habit? Never. But when have you said, oh, I accidentally adopted this bad habit? Many, countless. Because this immediate reward and delayed punishment, your body naturally wants to go there. So your body naturally wants to play victim. But for you to catch yourself, the same way you catch yourself with your bad habits, you have to ask yourself, this thought, this decision, this thing I'm about to say, is this something that's just something that rewards me now, but will punish me later? Or is this the hard road that I need to take now that will only reward me later?
Exactly.
When you ask yourself that question, it makes it very clear what's victim mindset, what is not.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, it's so crazy because the concepts that are within the program, the victim mindset, it ties in so many things with internal shifts, and geez, it's like untethering too. There's so many intertwined like concepts that comes into play to get to this point to spot these blind spots too.
It's true. Yeah.
Damn, dude. Like, I wish we had a whole week to do this, man. Like,
I know,
because there's so much to talk about, man.
Yeah. So, for example, like if you guys are watching
it.
a video on like stonewalling, for example, right? And a lot of people like to do this. Like, you go to a therapist, and the therapist tells you, you're fine the way you are. You should find a new partner. It's all your partner's fault. Think, is this something that I want to hear right now, but it could bite me in the ass later? Or is this the hard thing that I need to hear that I don't like right now? That doesn't make me feel good right now, but can lead to some learnings that can reward me later. I guarantee you that will always fall in the first category, right? And it's clear at that point what's victim, what's not. But let's talk about this 2 to tango thing. Obviously, you believed in that in the past, 2 to tango.
Yeah.
What changed your mind about it?
Oh man, yeah. I mean, like I said, the very last session, I remember my therapist was like, Terry, if she doesn't want to do it, work on it anymore, then that's it. There's nothing we can do about it. And I remember like thinking to myself, there's got to be something else. There's got to be something, more to just this. You know what I mean? This can't be it. This just can't be it. There's got to be more. So then, thinking more about it, and then finding your videos, and you actually have this video too, right? Does it take 2 to tango? And I remember I was like, oh shit, okay, maybe he's onto something, maybe he's onto something, right? So then, like, not only watching your videos, but your client videos too, your interviews. Shit, what a freaking experience. I'm sorry, man. I'm kind of like thinking I was actually on the other side, and here I am now. But here we are. This is right here. Like,
right, you are
living proof right here.
You were the interviewee. You were looking at the interviews before, thinking like, but then now you're like, let me tell you.
I'm here. Yeah. So I'm like, dudes, guys, if you're watching this video right now, seriously, man, it's like what Jeffrey says makes total sense. It only takes one person to change things for the better.
But let's look at the mechanics of why that is, right? And I always give this example to people, right? So this will help you understand the notion of feedback loops, how what you do actually is already affecting your partner and their overall relationship right now. So for example, okay, your partner comes home and she's in a bad mood. Okay, your partner's in a bad mood, and then you see her in a bad mood and you get in a bad mood too. Then you being in a bad mood causes your partner to be in a worse mood. Right there, in that instance, right? Doesn't matter who started what you did already affected her. That's it. You already affected her. So this notion of like a zebra cannot change its stripes, or you can't control what your partner does. That's fucking bullshit to me. Because you already are doing it. You're doing it every single moment, every single day. You just happen to be doing it in a negative direction.
Exactly, man. Yes. It's so crazy, dude. My partner we were just talking about this just the other day. She brought it up. She was like, man, your old self, whenever I brought something up, something negative, you would have to bring something negative. And it's almost like this competition or something like that. And it's just a negative feedback loop that just went out of control. Yeah. And it's like, she's like, yeah, you she was already feeling bad coming into this conversation, but then here I am playing the victim and like, hey, well, I'm suffering too. And then it just made her feel worse. And then it made me feel worse. And then it just like, it just went to shit, you know?
Yeah.
So I'm like, you're absolutely right. But we're already affecting each other and not even knowing it. That's the craziest thing. But you're absolutely right. It's affecting in such a negative and very toxic way. But we're so blind to it because we don't want to believe that we're
Yeah.
the cause of it. You
Yeah.
know?
And so like, so the first point here is like what you do already affects what your partner does. If you start changing what you do to where you are able to like reverse the script, whenever she gives you like a negative script, you reverse that script and you play out a positive one. So let's say like your partner comes in a bad mood and you show her compassion, you show understanding, and you like be her rock and be her support. Do you think she'll continue to be in a bad mood? Probably not. It's going to be hard, especially to do it properly, right? But how does that work though, right? That works by a lot of people. The problem is like they try to change their partner directly. And they do that by like telling their partner, hey, you need to do better here. You need to do better there. Stop doing this or stop doing that, right? Mm-hmm. If that's your approach to try to change your partner, then of course she will never change. But you're in a position now, Terry, where if you look at your partner's behaviors right now, how she talks to you, how she shows up around you, can you imagine that she's capable of doing this back then?
Oh, hell no.
Right?
Yeah.
It's almost like she's a different person. She's a different character, a different human being, a different personality. Like her whole being just changes. Why is that? Because you take it upon yourself to change the environment of that relationship. And we always have to remember that environment has a very massive impact on behavior, right? And good leaders always try to change the environment. They don't try to change people directly, they change the environment. So if I see my employees are not like producing a high level of work, I'm not going to whip them and go like, you need to do better. I'm going to say, hey, how can I change the culture so that it's easier for you to do better work, so that you want to do better work? Same thing. Not, honey, how can you be nicer? It's, how can I change the environment of the relationship so that it's easy for you to want to be nicer, to show up differently? In this case, what you did was create safety, right? Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you made this video that was really good that I really like. And this is the funniest thing. It's like, even though I'm in the program, I still go to your YouTube videos like all the time, man. It's like, I'm not even listening to music anymore. I'm listening to your YouTube videos. But yeah, you have this one that was called The Allergy to Resistance.
Yeah.
And yeah, man, it's just like having the shift of perspective on what resistance really is amazing. And I remember like even asking my partner about this, was talking to her about this, was like, hey, it was, you know, I can't imagine like, you know, what you've been trying to tell me all these years, you know, and it's just seeing it for what it is now is just massive opportunities, man. And what really breaks my heart, Jeffrey, is I see this in my friends, my family, and everywhere in public that people are just throwing away opportunities left and right. It always existed there. And it's just so sad because like, man, there could have been so many opportunities of reconnection, of growth, of like just feeling one another. But it just got squandered away because the way we see resistance in such a negative light, but not seeing for what it really is.
But that's a crucial part to actually, like when we talk about reversing that script, that's such a crucial skill. That is the key skill, right? So for example, like an example of this, guys, is let's say, okay, your partner tells you something that really hurts your feelings. Maybe she tells you a tough truth about yourself, about the relationship. And maybe she like tells it to you in a really bad way, for example. Most people looking at that would go, so your partner's like doing all these negative things. Most people respond to that by thinking, she's an asshole. She's kind of being annoying. That's not right. She can't do that to me. Right? I feel attacked. So let me try to attack back. Or let me try to shut down and stonewall. That's people's MOs. So here, your partner is like the negative person. you respond in a negative way and you're perpetuating a negative loop. But what Terry's saying is like, when your partner reacts that way, you need to be able to change your paradigms, to change the way you see resistance completely. To the point where you're telling yourself things like, she's angry at me. That's good. Because that means that she actually feels safe enough to express the raw emotions that she feels to me. There's safety there. Bueno. And she's telling me these things, not to tell me that I'm an asshole, but she's telling me these things because she's telling me, hey, this is making me very unhappy. And I want you to know about it. And because she trusts me enough so that if I know about it, she knows I will do something about it.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So it shows a lot of trust, and it shows you as a person, your opportunity to shine, right there, to fix the problem. It's like almost like if you're an owner of a company, you want your people to tell you bad news. You want to know the bad news. You don't want to hear all the good news. Real good leaders want to hear the bad news. And they will create a culture where their people will always be willing to tell them the bad news.
Mm-hmm.
Because as a leader, you need to know the bad news so that you can fix it. If you don't know the bad news, you can never fix it. So if you imagine, like, if you have all these mindset shifts about resistance, whenever you get resistance, you go, more, please. Give me more. I want that. This is great for us. Right?
Yeah.
And if you can have that mindset, then you are better poised to flip the script completely.
Yeah.
If my partner stonewalls me, right, I would say to her, I can sense you don't want to talk right now, and I get it. Sometimes I'm not the easiest person to talk to. And here's all the reasons why. Here's some examples of that. And if I were you, I would feel the same. Like, I wouldn't want to talk to myself sometimes. So I get it. Imagine if your partner stonewalls you and that's your response. Totally flip the script. Right? Totally, it's hard for your partner to stay mad at that point, Yeah.
And not only that, but then you're uncovering layers of things that you've never been able to see before. And you get to learn more. You get to like start to see things that it just was in your blind spot the whole time. And what's really cool is that what you're saying is having that internal shift to see that in a different light allows not only your partner, but then like your family members, my daughters. I mean, dude, Jeffrey, like, we've never been this close before. I swear to God, it's just amazing, dude. It's amazing, man. And this is one thing that probably needs to be talked about because it transcends just your romantic relationships. It's just relationships all around you. Because now it's like having that safety built not only with your partners, but then with your loved ones, is amazing too. So it's just crazy, like seeing my daughters gravitate towards me and then like opening up to me about things that they never opened up before.
Yeah.
It's awesome, dude. Yeah.
But it's interesting because like you kind of went down to the fundamentals of what this program is about, which is I want you to understand the principles of internal growth so that you can understand the principles of external growth and how you show up in relationships so all relationships can thrive. Because like one of the common questions we get too is like, well, Jeff, I know you work with people who are married, but would this work for if I'm just like dating, early stages? Or, you work with people in dire situations. Mine is not that dire yet. Would this work for me? Or even like, I'm a woman, you work with men usually. Would this work for me? And the response I always give to them is like, well, look at your situation right now. Let's say you're in early stages of a relationship. Let's say your situation is not dire. Let's say you're a woman. Do you still need to create safety? Are you saying your partner doesn't want safety? Yeah, of course he or she wants safety. Do they not want admiration? Of course they do. Do they not want to align on goals? Of course they do. Do they not want sexual passion? Of course they do. Do you not need to understand how to communicate using the frameworks? Of course you do. Do you not need to be bulletproof, untethered, not play victim? Of course you need to work on all these skills. So knowing that, how would you re-answer your own question here?
Yeah.
This is applied to you.
It goes beyond like men or women. It's like a human thing. It's a human nature thing, and it's like, and it goes beyond just adults with kids too.
Yeah.
So like knowing the resistance for what it is and what it is, it's an expression of emotions, and to learn through the program of finding what it is that's behind it, to dig deeper, to see what's the motivation factor, why it is that they're feeling this way, what's the root cause is, man, it's so key.
And that's how you get to know people, right? That's how you get to know people. That's how people can feel understood by you in those moments. And if you take those moments as a threat, you miss all the opportunities that it actually provides. You're missing the whole plot of what it means to create a deep relationship. You know.
So yeah, I don't know if I told you this, Jeffrey, but yeah, actually I didn't tell the group this either. But after I got through the frameworks and was able to see what I needed to see, I was thinking, like, I remember you were saying no situation is ever unique. So then I was like, you know what? Let me go talk to some of my family members and coworkers and friends who are divorced. And I'm going to apply to them what I applied to my partner, right? And I pretty much did the frameworks with them. And I swear to God, dude, every one of them, even some of them cried because they're like, I've been waiting 10 years to hear that, Terry. I wish that he would tell me that. And I was like, shit, Jeffrey freaking broke the code, man. It's like,
no, legit, like there's some conversations that I have with Terry where like you said, like person cried because like they're like, I've never in all my life have actually had someone see me, feel me this deeply. I've never actually get to express this with anyone. I never got to talk about this with anyone. I've never become close. And you're the first person who actually now understands me. And that feeling is just, it's indescribable what you can give to people if you can do that.
It is. And it's so detrimental of how damaging it is when safety is broken. I mean, the basic pillar of this, what we're working on, right? And just having these conversations with all these people, and like all of them telling me that this is what really drove them to where that hopelessness, that catch-22. I mean, like all the things that they've been feeling. It wasn't just her that was feeling this. It was everybody that had gone through divorces, gone through breaks, going whatever it is that they're dealing with, And it's just like, damn, no matter what your situation is, it doesn't matter. It's like, this is universal. Yes. So it's just amazing. And yeah, like you said, to connect to people on this level is just insane. It's so insane.
Yeah. But it's also like the combination of levels too, because again, some people we talk to, like, if I asked you back then, right, does your partner feel safe to express stuff to you? You would say, yes. I think she does. She shares with me all stuff all the time. Right? But again, it's like that levels of like, how high of a level of safety are we talking about here? Are we talking about this level of safety where your partner can share with you some things, but keeps many things to herself? Are we talking about the level of safety where she can share with you like the logical things, but never the deepest and darkest things? Or is it the level of safety where she can actually feel like you are in her soul, right? That's a different level of safety. And you can never get to that finish line on that. But you can always get closer and closer. So make sure people understand like levels here. When you talk about creating safety, it's not the question you shouldn't ask yourself is, what is she sharing? The question you should ask yourself is, what is she not sharing? As long as you can find something she's not sharing, you have some safety issues there.
Yeah. And then like the more you lean into resistances and the more you like uncover things, you get to build that by how, I guess, it's like in the program we always say like it's not the what, that's the how, right? So then like having built that layer of safety is just like, it just adds on and on and on. It's like you said, it's an ongoing process. And
but it's not. But the crucial part is like, I don't want people to misunderstand it. It's not linear.
Yes.
The progression is not linear. It actually goes down first. And I think you face this too in the beginning where, let's say you change the way you talk. So let's say like your partner stonewalls you and you used to be someone who like stonewalls back, for example, or gaslights back. And suddenly now you're playing the better road of, oh, let me be compassionate. Your partner's going to retaliate. Because she thinks like, what game are you fucking playing here? I don't trust this. This sounds fishy. I don't know. It's going to bite me in the ass later. I don't know how. I don't know when, but it will. So she's going to resist you even harder in the meantime as you're creating safety. That's what we call the paradox of change, POC, as Terry referred to it earlier. Did you face that when you were? when you
Oh,
were
dude,
starting?
yeah. Oh, big time.
What did
Big
your
time.
partner say to
I
you?
mean, oh my God. It was just like, you name it, man. It's like, it's hopeless, don't even try. It's like, this is never gonna, I'm never going back. I'm never, I mean, all the things to kill any ounce of hope was pretty much
Said.
there. Yeah, it's dead. Yeah, yeah. And this is funny because, oh man, God damn, I wish we had more time. But I remember talking to some people that I know that went through divorces. And I remember during that time, they were telling me that their partners were like angry and just like arguing with them all the time, like just God. And I'm sure a lot of people out there watching this video is probably experiencing this too. And I remember he told me he would try all these things to rectify the situation. But then once the divorce papers were signed and done, he told me that she stopped doing it. So then I asked, like, why do you think this is? And he told me, like, oh, because she's happy. And I was like, no, dude, you got it wrong. Once that paperwork was signed, you gave up, you stopped. And that's not her being happy. It's her realizing it's hopeless. It's truly hopeless.
I
Not
made
knowing
the
the
right
whole
decision.
time, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, like not knowing the whole time she was trying to fight for the marriage. She was trying to fight for your relationship, dude. It's just that you couldn't interpret the resistance in the ways that she wanted you to.
Oh,
It was kind of like,
that's such a good point. And I often even forget this point. Because like we got so many people who come to us and say, like, you know, oh, they're so like gung ho about joining the program, and then like 24 hours later, they're like, oh, she seems pretty hopeless. I don't really want to do it anymore.
yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck, dude? Do you understand what you just said? Do you understand what you just did there? Right. So this is the crux, guys. If your partner's resisting you, if your partner is making it hopeless for you, okay, making it impossible for you, like there's no hope, no possible way of reconciling, whatever it is, that's not her telling you to stop. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's her actually creating this environment where she can see what the fuck are you really made of? Right? Because like if she comes to you and says, hey dude, I have so much hope for you. I have so much faith in you. You're gonna do great. Just change, okay? If you do change with all that friendliness, she's always gonna be wondering in her mind, did he change because I gave him the hope?
Mm-hmm.
Or did he change because of me? Because I told him to get me back? Or did he change because he wants to change for the sake of changing?
Yeah.
Because she knows that if your motivation for changing is her, because she told you so, because there's hope, she knows that your changes will always be conditional, always be temporary. Understand that, guys. And she can never believe your changes.
And the funny thing is that I think if you look at your past, because this is what happened with me too, is that these things had happened in the past. Like she did ask, you need to change, you need to do this. And when I remember in the past, like looking back, when I would do these little things, it's like I started getting positive feedback. And as soon as that happens, it's like, oh, okay, cool. And I can coast. So now it's kind of like problem solved. All right, cool. We're good, not knowing that, dude, that's not what was needed. You know what I mean? It wasn't genuine. It didn't come from within. It came because I was so tethered to an outcome. And then when I got the outcome, hey, it's good. You're done. Mission accomplished.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like we don't even see it that it's been going on in our lives, in our relationships for so long. It's just that she's been, and this has been ingrained in her, like, hey, I'm gonna get burned if I give him any ounce of hope. I'm gonna get burned if I tell him you're doing the right thing, just keep doing what you're doing, you got it. It's gonna happen all over again.
Yeah.
So if I was her, I would do exactly the same thing, man. It's like I can't. Okay, I remember like screw him for pissing me off for doing this, but if I allow this to happen, screw me, and I can't forgive myself. And I don't know if I would ever get myself out of that depths of despair if
Exactly.
I allow myself to do this. Yeah.
And this is the part that people don't get, or sometimes it's like when your partner is at a point where they're leaving, that is a point when you have probably given her so many promises.
Mm-hmm.
You've given her so many false hopes, but then she's been burned every time she trusts. It's like she gets false hope, destroyed. False hope, destroyed. That gets exhausting after a while. And so this is what Terry was saying. Is like, after 20 times of this, it's like, dude, I don't want to be, I don't want to be fooled again. I want to make sure that whenever he says it's going to change is the real shit, the real deal. Right. And so the funny thing is this, a lot of people say like, oh, once a woman wants space, that's it. It's over. I'm like, well, yeah, it's over because that's your mentality. Because you don't see it as an opportunity. You see it as it's over. I see it as the game is just starting, bro. Right?
Yep.
Because let's say, okay, let's give the scenario where your partner divorces you, like Tara was giving. Papers are filed, done. And you just give up on the relationship. You give up on her. You give up on changing. You give up on being better. What does it tell her? It tells her that your motivation for changing was always conditional.
Yeah.
It was never going to be permanent. It was never going to be permanent.
Exactly.
Once those motivators go away, it's like once those motivators go away, let's say you get her back, that's it. You're done.
Yeah.
You get complacent.
Yeah. And in that like situation that I had talked about, I was like, yeah, she wasn't happy. The resistance stopped. It wasn't because of happiness. It was because she knew that she's disappointed. That was it. Like those changes weren't genuine. They were all tactics, manipulation, way to like try to trick her to come back. And it wasn't bred from within. It wasn't genuine. So the internal shift didn't exist at all. This is just all like games that you were playing just to try to get her back. So that's why I'm like, dude, this program isn't about like tactics, isn't about just trying to trick her to come back to you. You're building something that's beyond what you had before. And you know, when you're talking about the Usain Bolt thing, it's like, yeah, we're going to the moon and beyond, man. So it's yeah, it's like, dude, the way this program is structured and the way the things that you talk about is just so revolutionary, because I've never read anything, seen anything, or heard anything of magnitude of this program, what it teaches and what it shines light on. And I feel like, dude, kids need to learn this in school, man. You know what I mean? Because you're such healthier adults growing up, knowing about relationships, knowing about what, you know, just all the things that you teach in here. So it's God damn. I just wish
it's hard to articulate. I just want to close off on like what you said there. So imagine that like your partner divorces you and then suddenly you give up. What the message is that sends her. But imagine, okay, if like she files the divorce papers and you still keep up with your changes. You're like, I'm not slowing down at all. I'm gonna become better. I'm just gonna become better. And this is not done in a needy way, too. Done in a very magnetic way, right? Then your partner will go, wait, I've taken away all hope here. I've taken away every sense of possible ulterior motives for why he's changing. I've taken away every incentive. But he's still going strong with his changes. He's not going strong for just a week. He's going strong for like 6 months here. Maybe he's different for real this time.
Yeah, and it's so crazy. I mean, like my journey is like initially going through this. It's like, yeah, I want to, you know, save this relationship. I want to like reconcile and whatnot. But as the further deeper I go, and I see this with a lot of, you know, members too, is that, dude, it's a life-changing event, really. And, oh, dude, I mean, I'm goddamn serious. There was, God, I made this post about this. After phase 2, I remember, or sometime during phase 2, when we were working on our internal shifts. And then I remember just sitting outside my house, just contemplating, and I started tearing up. And it was just straight up out of happiness, because I knew that what we're building here is just so strong that no one can touch you. Nothing can touch you at this point. Divorce, affairs, like you name it, don't matter, you know? Like, you got this, you know? So once we get ourselves there, hey, let's lift up the people around us, right? And it just felt so uplifting, really, you know? It just felt so good. So I'm like, dude, come on, man, let's get RR out there, you know? And then it's like, let's get everybody up to where they, you know, where they can be, because it just felt so good, man. And it's like, it's a feeling I can't describe, you know? It's awesome. Awesome.
It's like I remember that person I was telling you about who's like, he thought he was already like changed and he was doing well. I told him this. I was like this. I was like, look, here's what the best way I can put it, right? I look at what you were doing with your life. I'll look at your changes right now. I think you're still in kindergarten. All right. We're all like creating businesses, creating multinational companies. You're still in kindergarten. Not to say like you're poor, but just saying like the changes you think you made is kindergarten level.
Mm-hmm.
I want to take you to the sky. Right. And what I want for you is, if you look at all the client stories that we have, they will say, I look at myself a year ago and I cringe. I laugh at myself a year ago. I want you to join us so that you can say that for yourself. And 1 year from now, 365 days from now, I want you to look back at this conversation right here. You telling me that your changes are high level, and I want you to laugh at yourself. I want you to grow so high that you can do that. Do you want to? I said that's the best I can do, because I cannot describe to you how high you can go. I cannot tell you. You will never believe me. You just have to experience it, go to the moon, and then look at yourself and go laugh, kind of thing. Right.
And the wonderful thing is that you can do it with your partner, because this is what you and I do. And then it's like, man, it's hilarious. And we just laugh about it. Like, God damn, that guy was such an idiot. Huh? I'm like, yeah, he was a dick for sure. It's just cringy, like thinking about it, but it's just funny. It's funny.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's no way in hell that we would be able to have a conversation like that. No way in the past.
Yeah. And one of the final point I kind of want to touch on is what you said earlier, which is this is not like some manipulative thing, some tactical thing that you're doing. This is you becoming magnetic, right? This is us reattracting and saving your marriage, not by saying or doing a few things. This is us saving our marriage by literally becoming fucking irreplaceable.
Damn straight.
Fucking irresistible, right?
Yeah.
I guess I'm sure you have a lot of thoughts on that statement.
Oh, dude, sure, man. It's like, oh my gosh, I don't know where to begin, because when starting off, when the separation happened and whatnot, you fall into this pit of despair and you feel as if like it's hopeless, there's nothing that can do, and you're just like the bottom of the barrel, really. And then when you're down there, it's hard to fathom how far you can go. Even just to get to surface level is even hard to imagine. I mean, sub 10, forget about that, dude. We're talking about like a minute, to get to the 100 meter. So it's like to think that far is just very hard to conceive, really. That's
actually a good analogy, right? Imagine you're bottom of the well, you could see the hole. You've never been up there, right? Like, and then here we are trying to incentivize people like, hey, dude, get out of the well. There's a whole great world out there. But then you, not knowing what's up there, you just go like, I don't really, I'm okay. It's a bit too expensive. It's like, dude, do you know what the fuck you're missing out on?
Exactly.
Like, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, like, can you just imagine what it's like? It's like, oh my gosh, and here we are trying to describe it, but it's just so hard to put it into words, because it's not a thing that we can touch or grab to show, or it's a whole nother state of mind. And I swear to God, dude, you can't really put a value on this, because you got your partner's life, your relationships at stake, your relationship with your kids and your parents and your family and your friends, your coworkers are all at stake, because they're all going to be affected by the growth and the knowledge that you're going to gain going through this journey.
And it's almost like going back to the notion of like being a high value man, right? Being a high value man is like literally about how much value can you bring to people. That's a word. Being high value man is not being this egotistical, selfish person. If you are that, then you are literally creating negative value for people, which fundamentally, by definition, makes you a negative value man, right? Not a high value man.
Yeah. I mean, anybody can fluff their chest and be like, yeah, look at me. I'm like, I'm so alpha, whatever, right? But...
yeah. And like a great model to see just how high of a value that you can create really is looking at the Maslow's hierarchy of needs, right? So a lot of men, I'm sure you did too, like they like to pride themselves on how much, like this, a lot of men say like, well, I give you everything you need. I'll give you food, shelter, I bring home the bacon. We have so much money. We got vacations. We have this, we have that. Okay, great. Now look at what you're giving and put it into the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You will realize that it's level 1 or 2. basic needs, physiological needs, or like the low level needs. But do you actually give her the safety needs? Do you actually give her the esteem needs? Do you actually give her the self-actualized needs? For you to feel self-actualized, you gotta feel deeply connected with something, right? That's what self-actualization is, like focusing on something bigger than yourself, right?
Yeah.
If you're not there yet, don't call yourself a high value man. If you're just wealthy, but you don't know how to create good relationships, deep relationships to the point where you make people cry because they're so moved by how deep the relationship is, you are not high value, my guy. Right?
Exactly. Yeah, that's so true. And the saddest part is that our partners are always there. I mean, they can see it. I mean, you think about it, man, it's so crazy. And they're all of our lives, but they've been trying to get us there, to get us out of that well. They've been up there, but it's funny because we inadvertently are trying to drag them down and be like, no, look how great it is down here. Look at all the things that I have to offer you. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like,
yeah.
you gotta be shitting me. Come on, man.
I love that. I love that too, because like some people, like we get on a call with some people and then they try to explain to us their story. It's like, Jeff, let me tell you how tough this is. Let me tell you how like unique my situation is. I'm like, hold up, okay? Are you here to learn from me, Jeffrey, how to get to my level? Or are you trying to tell me stories so that I can get to your level?
Exactly.
What are we doing here?
Yeah.
Right? You're not supposed to be telling me your stories. You're supposed to be learning from me right now.
Yeah, exactly, man. Yeah. And our partner's been trying to do this the whole time. That's what's crazy. The more I think about it, it's like, oh shit. It's like, yeah, they know, they have like certain things about it. And I think it's just letting go of that black and white mind, right? And just letting go of what it is that you think you know and dive deep into like what you don't know, really.
Yeah. It's really funny too, that mindset of, I enrolled in like 3 mastermind groups, and each mastermind was probably like 50 people to 100 people at a time. And some of these people, they're earning like a shit ton. Like it's unfathomable somehow. Like this one guy, okay, he makes 11 million a month. Think about that. Okay, just think about that for a sec. I know people make billions, but he makes 11 million a month. So I've never gone to those masterminds, and I've never once like went there going, let me tell you guys my story. I've never once said that, because I realized that to these guys, my story is fucking bullshit. It's like nobody gives a shit, right? In fact, whenever I go to the mastermind, I always ask myself, what are these guys doing that I'm not doing? What am I missing? What do I not know? And I don't like impose what I know on people. So when you get on a call with a member of my team, guys, okay, when you get into the program eventually, I don't know, if you want to go about life and you want to actually learn something, don't go about life expecting other people to understand your vision, your perspective. A lot of people like to say, well, don't you want to hear my story? Fuck no. Right? Get curious on what other people's stories are. Ask yourself, what am I missing? What do I not know? What do they know? What do I need to hear from them? Then you will learn something. Then you will grow.
Exactly, man. Exactly. And I guess the thing is that not having that mindset, they would take what you're saying as an attack on them. And the funny thing is that this is what they've been doing with their partners all these years. So it's kind of like, it's crazy, because using that mentality and that way of approaching conversations, or even like, expanding your mind, is really what led you to be in this spot in the first place. So to tell your partner, no, you don't understand. Let me tell you my story. Let me tell you my side of this thing. It's the same thing, right? So it's like,
that's why you missed the main. Yeah, you have missed the main message since the moment you met. You've missed the main message. You've missed the thing she's trying to tell you, because you're so busy trying to tell your story. You missed other people trying to tell you their story.
Yep. And then you can learn from that. Exactly what you're doing right here. So it's like, oh man, yes.
That's a beautiful way to put it.
They gotta teach us in school, man.
I know. So I just want to close this off by talking about kind of your experience in the program. I know we mentioned this throughout the interview as well, but now that you're in the program, how would you, like, if someone were to ask you, like, hey, Jeff has his YouTube channel, he has his program, what's the difference? How would you respond to someone asking that question?
Whew, that's a good question. And my gosh, I really wish that you guys can see how in-depth this program really is. It's not only the program, it's the community that's in there. And it encompasses everything, you know, your coaching calls, all these resources that you've given us. Heck, man, these freaking worksheets that you're giving us, it's crazy. It's like, there's so many things that are not available in the YouTube videos. And the YouTube videos is great, but it's just like, it's not even scratching the surface. You're just like breathing the air that what the program really entails. I mean, I highly recommend signing up for the masterclass because that will give you the closest glimpse into what the program is going to be about. And you're going to get your world rocked, man, because it's like changing everything that you have thought, everything that you think is right. You're like, what's that guy's name again? Morpheus. Yeah, that's right. Morpheus. just waking up all these dudes that's been sleeping in the pods. So yeah, I mean,
and like,
you can't,
and like you touched on something which is like, not only is the material more complete in the program, like, you know, the thing with YouTube is like, I cannot ever build. Like, I cannot say, oh, I assume you know this, so I can just go into a more advanced topic, assuming you know this. And then later on, I can say like, oh, I assume you know these things, so I'll just build off starting from here. Every video, I have to start from scratch. So you can imagine, like, I cannot go very high there. But the other thing too is also the difference between conceptually understanding something and being a performer at it. Right? So we have this quote in the program that says like, amateurs can do something until they can get it right. Professionals, real masters, master something until they cannot get it wrong. So you could, for example, watch a ton of YouTube videos on playing basketball, but your conceptual understanding of basketball will not make you a good performer at basketball. And the thing with relationships is that it is a performance. It's a performance of internal shifts, internal processes, internal things. It's a performance that entails external things, what you say. It's a speech. It's a communication. It's a performance. It's a dance. And a lot of the things we talk about are complex. Like, for example, like leading into resistance. Let's look at the steps there, right? You're going to pivot away from the conversation. You're going to make sure that you're bulletproof, which has its own processes. You're going to understand how to find a thing in a thing and understand logically what the resistance is all about.
Yeah.
Once you do that, then you need to emotionally feel that with your emotional literacy, etc. Then you need to know how to paraphrase that. Then you get the response. You need to take in the response and then do it all over again.
Actually, I was just thinking about this too. If you just rely basically on the YouTube videos, and the YouTube videos, one, just barely scratch the surface, and it's not in the right way of building the layers, you're actually going to fuck shit up even more so. because you're not going to understand why things lead up to the way they are. And the program lays it out in the perfect way, man. Like, I don't know how you do it. I swear to God. To this day, I still like rock my mind, like trying to figure out how the hell you do this, dude. but it's like, it's amazing because it actually takes you by the hand and it tells you, okay, look at this concept now. And now you really fool this, you know, like, to get this,
you slowly click it and click more things and click more things.
Exactly. That's why, like, in the begining of the program, it's like a lot of people go into it and like you know, it's very skeptical and, you know, but as you're going through, you're like, oh shit, okay, this makes sense. Oh, this makes sense. Oh, this builds on that. Oh, this builds on that. You know, oh yeah, okay. But you can't get that with the YouTube videos.
No.
Because it's just like here, there, and that. But then it's like there's no way to really build upon what it is you need. And they're only like, you know, I mean, there's only so many minutes that you have in the videos anyways.
Yeah.
So you get that deep with it, but you need to. You really need to in order.
You really need to, because you become the performer, right? It's almost like if you're, let's say, dancing, right? And you just learn dancing on a very surface level. Sure, you can dance, but you're gonna be very like slow with it. Like your movements are gonna look like shit, right? same thing here. Like, if you are just conceptually understanding something, but you haven't programmed the new stuff yet, you can try to do the right what, like Terry was saying, but if you do it with the wrong how, it's not going to have an impact.
Exactly.
And the program also not only just gives you the materials, the principles, but it's literally a community, and everything's designed to get you from conceptual knowing to becoming a performer, so that you can do this in your sleep. You can do something so complex look effortless. And that's what performers do. They make the complex look effortless. Dancers make the complex look effortless. You try to emulate that, you can't. It's hard.
Yeah.
Same thing here.
Yeah. And what's crazy is that you're giving us the tools and the ability to do this ourselves. And I think that's what's really amazing, is that, you know, at first, you know, you learn for sure slowly, but once you get to a certain point, you're like, dude, I can POS myself, like, you know.
But it's so crucial, right? It's like, there's this thread right now, and this is the last point because I gotta go. Fight here. But this is the last point because like there's a thread right now where a bunch of therapists are basically saying like, Jeff, this is morally wrong for you to like teach someone how to become their own doctors of their relationship. And I'm like, what kind of batshit statement is that? How is that wrong? Right? So let's look at this, okay? In your relationship, you need to perform in the moment. Your partner comes home, she says something, you got to respond right there. You cannot go like, oh, hold on, let me call my doctor. Hold on one moment, let me call my doctor. You can't do that. So if you are a therapist, okay, if you're a professional and you're not teaching your clients how to become their own doctor, you are actually doing them a bigger disservice.
Exactly.
That's more morally wrong.
Yeah. And that's what we experienced when we went through our sessions. And I remember it's like, save all those discussions to when we meet like a week later, you know what I mean? I'm like,
come on, man.
Possible, you know what I mean? It's like the emotional fight was off the chain now. Like, how do I deal with it now? And like, what's the correct response, you know? And like you said, you build the safety within the therapist, not within your relationship.
Like that's another point entirely, but it's like, yeah. I want to have a part 2. Okay, I want to have a part 2 with you because this is I had such a blast, and I want to dive into topics that we couldn't dive into. So, guys, you're gonna hear a follow-up interview with Terry here, because we need to do part 2. This is freaking awesome. But Terry, I gotta go. But guys, like just to close this off, if you want to explore just the depth of knowledge that Terry has gotten here, and the sensation of like bliss that is unexplainable, that is indescribable, that goes beyond your wildest imagination right now, I encourage you to join me in my masterclass. Again, start there. It's not going to show you everything, but it's going to show you at least the basic steps, the basic kind of big picture idea of what we're trying to accomplish here, so you can get a better idea of what that finish line or that, I guess, ideal outcome would look like for you. So if you want to join me in the masterclass, I'll leave the link down below this video. Terry, dude.
Do it, guys. Do it. It's free. Do it, man. You got nothing to lose.
Yeah.
It changed my freaking life, man. So, like, swear to God, do yourself a favor. Do it. Can't.
There you go.
Sure. No. But thank you so much, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. And just to close off, like also at the end of the masterclass, we'll show you how to apply for the program. But remember, guys, okay, we do get very high demand. And this is not me trying to sound fishy or like salesy, whatever it is. We literally can only accept less than 10% of people who apply. We only have room for this number of people, right? So it's not that you get a call and then we extend the offer to you. It's not like if you have money, you have the need, we'll take you. You got to have the right attitude, guys. So make sure when you're filling out the survey, when you're on the call, be your best self. Show up as your best self, right? Show that you're coachable. Show that you're ready. Show that you're an empty canvas. Show that you're humble, ready to just like trust this program that has worked for thousands of people. So Terry, closing words. I know I cut you off there. Sorry.
Oh, no. I'm just like, man, I wish I could just reach out on the screen and just like tell these guys, like, dude, take the freaking masterclass and just see it, man. Yeah, that's all you guys need to do. Just do it, you know.
Good. Yeah. Terry, thank you so much. We have part 2. You have a good rest of the week, okay?
Appreciate it, man. Yeah.
See the program again. See you engaging. Let's do it.
All right. See you.
Bye, man.
Take care.